live. Okay, here we go. And we are back with another podcast. My name is Seth. This is, I almost said the wrong name. This is No Sugar, No Cream podcast. I'm here with my one and only co-host, Tim.
One and only hesitate. One and only what?
One and only co-host. That's a co-host. Well, I felt like I was going to mess it up. Just like I was almost about to say the wrong name of the podcast. Because I'm more or less like doing the same intro, so I made it mess me up. But we are back with another podcast. It is Tuesday. We're back to our normal time until I head off for a cruise. We got to figure out what we're going to do here. And less than a month, I'm taking off to go cruising for a month, so it'll be a little hard to go live. But we are back today. We did a trip last week. Went to surprise my mom for her birthday. That's why we're being hush hush, because it is on Facebook, and my mom's on Facebook in case she listened in. And thanks for everybody that checked us out on Facebook. We're at well over 300 views on Tim Wolf's Facebook music channel, which is awesome. So thanks for everybody listening on there. So if you're not, please subscribe to our Facebook page. We're still trying to get some other stuff set up. We're not everywhere yet on. We're on Spotify. Oh, and check and subscribe on YouTube. So you can put us on Spotify, YouTube, and then very soon we'll be on all platforms as far as podcasts. Does that sound about right, Tim? Or are you checking to see how
I'm checking on Instagram. We're live on Instagram, but there's an echo.
Echo. Uh-oh. Hopefully we don't have that sound on Facebook or anything. Is it a bad echo?
It's not too bad.
Okay.
I think it's not too bad. But
Okay.
let me make sure my mic is going.
Then you might want to switch over to Facebook and see how we sound there. Because yes, we are. We go live.
Okay, we're both on there.
We're not little sissies. We don't like record it and edit it. No, we go. We go.
Woo! Okay. This is getting easier. So did you name which podcast this is? This is number
7, right?
7, yes.
This is 7. So, oh my gosh, we're about to. We should give up now. This is where the majority of people give up. They just make it a 7. That's the average. I heard that somewhere. Read that somewhere that the average podcast lasts 7. Because I mean, there's so many podcasts out there, but we're gonna make it past it. We're dedicated to this. It helps too that we love podcasting, and we never wanted to stop podcasting. It was our partners that weren't able to keep going at the time. So we're here doing No Sugar, No Cream. Little No Sugar, No Cream.
Absolutely.
No sugar or cream in mine.
I just noticed that I caught that I did something that is probably not understood by most Americans.
Oh yeah, I saw you do that, and which I knew registered right away.
That is Japanese, because I lived in Japan for 2 years. So the 5 and then plus the 2 is the 7.
You know that makes so much more sense than sign language.
I mean, otherwise you I don't know, you'd be like this, or you'd be
sign language is like that. I think you go. It's kind of it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It feels 5 feels good, but then you start with. It goes this way or this way. I think it's 6, 7. So this makes. I mean, it's so chill. You did that where like nobody even saw what you did too. Like,
well, you didn't hesitate for a second.
You know what? No. You know what's funny too? I thought maybe it was some kind of music thing or something like a band thing.
You know, isn't that amazing? I haven't been to Japan. I mean, I lived in Japan for 2 years in the 90s, and I'd go back in a heartbeat. It was the best 2 years of my life. Really, I had a Japanese girlfriend.
We've talked about going there.
Yeah, she. Anyhow,
which is my memory.
And I played in the blues band, and I led a blues band, and it was my first experience leading. Well, yeah, we got to play. We got to, and we had some Americans in the band, had a couple of Japanese guys, and some phenomenal musicians. The harp player was amazing. Guitar player was amazing.
You say harp?
Yeah, harmonica.
Oh, harmonica.
Yeah, harp.
Wait, you Okay, so you call a harmonica a harp?
Yeah, blues players call it a harp.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that. That's interesting. Because
I have so much to teach you. So much to teach
I
you.
was about to be super impressed if there's a harp player because
well,
it'd be hard to play. That would be hard to play as far as.
I don't know how you could have harp, traditional harp.
Just think of that like in a rap song. Which the funny part is like there's usually some like a nice melody flow or something. I don't know. Anyways, but what was I gonna say?
Norio and Garo. I think they're still playing together today, even 35 years later. I'm friends with them on Facebook. 30. No, let's see, that'd be 28 years ago. 28 years ago when we 27 years ago when we stopped. And I'm friends with them on Facebook. They're great guys. I haven't seen them since then. Well, I went back 1 year later and we jammed together. But anyhow, what made me when I did that, it reminded me how culture and hand signs are so cultural driven. And I don't know if you're a big Quentin Tarantino fan.
Oh yeah, you know that.
And yes, I know that. The Inglourious Bastards movie. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And there were some Americans or Allied people in Germany pretending to be German, and they spoke German without an accent, but the giveaway, the bad character who won an Oscar for it, I can't remember his name, but I remember that he won an Oscar for his role. I remember that Quentin Tarantino said he never thought he'd be able to film the movie because the most important antagonist was somebody who had to speak English fluently, native German, and Italian. I think at least those three languages. And he said, I'll never be able to get someone who can do that.
Is that the actor I'm thinking of?
I don't know who you're thinking of, but if you're thinking of the actor I'm thinking of, yes.
His name? I feel it.
Waltz? Was it Waltz last name? I don't remember his name, but he won an Oscar for that role.
He has a very unique voice, right? The way he speaks.
We do have our, we can Google it.
This is just made out of cardboard. This is just for decoration. Speaking of, before I forget about it, I was walking downstairs earlier today, and my head still hurts a little bit, but a shoe fell out of the sky, and it hit me in the head. Oh, it was so awkward. It was so weird. You wouldn't know anything about this, would you?
Nothing.
I'm like watching TV in the living room, and every once in a while I hear a thump, and there's a box on the ground from the iPod. It is a little bit of a trip. Tim it was just cracking me up. Tim dropped a couple things from the second floor. He was in the middle of cleaning, which it looks fantastic in here, Tim. It looks nice and clean. I love it.
2010.
But we are in Tim's studio.
I thought he won. Maybe he didn't win.
Also the podcast studio. What's his name?
I'm looking it up here.
Okay.
I thought he won.
But he does. He's very
Christopher Waltz.
Yes.
Waltz. I knew it was Waltz.
Amazing
actor. Yeah.
And the way he talks,
I thought
which is funny
won,
because
but maybe he won for another movie. He did. Oh, he won for the one that came after, because they didn't give it to him for that one, and they gave it to him for the next one, which was where he played a dentist that went through. It was Django
Unchained.
That one. Yeah.
Oh, he was a dentist.
He was a dentist, but he was really a.
But then he became a
guy who was freeing slaves. But he had this really funny cart that he would go around with the horses, and it had a tooth on the top that would just goofy.
Am I mistaken? But wasn't he picking up people that were?
I think he was rescuing slaves, if I don't remember. Black slaves.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought he was also like doing bounties or something. I might be mistaken. But yeah, I mean that's a crazy. That's definitely blood and guts going everywhere. Kind of Quentin Tarantino.
As he can't make a movie without blood and guts everywhere. Anyway, so back to Inglourious Bastards, they're in the bar, the climactic scene, if I recall. They're in the German bar, and they're ordering drinks. And the Christoph Waltz character is suspicious. He thinks that maybe something is off. Are they really German? And he keeps asking them questions. There's 3 of them, and they're excelling and not dropping the ball in any way until they order beers. And I don't remember how it is, but I think they said 2 beers, which is a American or British way of doing it. And if I remember right, the Germans order it this way. Vice versa, one of the 2. It's either Americans would always do this. If you're ordering 2 beers, what would you say?
Yeah, 2.
A noisy bar, and you want to order again, and you motion at the bartender. You go like that. But I guess
your 5 beers in, and then you go 2, bartender 2.
I believe this is how they do it in Germany, or according to the movie. If the movie is accurate, I don't know if the movie is accurate, but it was like this.
Which seems so weird to us.
Seems so weird. Who would ever order beer like this?
1, 2, 1.5.
I hope I have it right. No, it wouldn't have been like that. Maybe. Anyway, it wasn't this way. It was
2 small beers.
Yeah. So
it's gonna be one of those podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. Would you like 2 large beers or 2 small beers? All right, we just got some balloons on the pot. I don't know what that means, but awesome.
All right, so what did we do last week?
Okay, so I was starting to talk about it, and then like always, I got distracted.
You.
But no. I probably interrupted myself. You can only be responsible for half the times I'm interrupted. I used to interrupt myself. Okay. So it just made me think of a podcast where like he interrupted himself, or it was just funny. 2 Bears, 1 Cave. Shout out to 2 Bears, 1 Cave.
What did we do last week?
We went and surprised. So we had the podcast today early because we went and surprised my mom.
Yeah, that's right.
Your little sister.
That's right.
Which your big sister.
Big sister. Yeah.
You're in your 30s. She's in her 50s, so she's a little bit older.
A little bit, just a little bit. And she didn't even know it was coming. Neither did Dad.
Amazing. It was amazing. We almost did post that clip of so we surprised. Nobody knew. Okay, so it was a surprise for my mom and my dad didn't know.
But your brother coordinated it.
Brother coordinated it.
Daniel, shout out to Daniel.
Coordinating little which is funny because it's usually not his thing, but he had a good time doing it.
And he did a great job. He did a great job.
So we meet at a German restaurant where you guys are mostly German, right?
We came from Germany. Actually, we spoke German. My grandfather spoke German.
Did Grandpa speak German?
When he was younger, he could, but he grew out of it. Yeah. His dad spoke German as a first language. My grandfather.
How much family came over when they?
Okay. You want to talk about that? 1874, they came over. There were 3 ships that came over. It was the Mayflower. No, I'm kidding. No, there are 3 ships. I think it was 3 ships. I might be confusing that. But anyway, they came. We know we have a book of the log of the ship that came over, and there were Hutterites, a type of a Mennonite sect, and the 2 main distinguishing features. They're like Amish. Except imagine Amish with the latest, absolutely most modern technology.
I see an English person playing a Game Boy.
Farming, agriculture,
okay.
But the absolute latest technology. But they had beards. If you're married, you had to wear a beard and suspenders and the black pants and the women wearing the shawl. Or cover their hair and long dresses. I mean, everything the same, except technology is absolutely the most modern, latest and greatest. And they all live with they also live everything in common. You know, in second chapter of Acts, or in Acts in the Bible, the early church was everybody lived everything in common is one interpretation of it. Everybody sold everything they had and gave it to the church, and then they lived with nobody owning any. I mean, if you want to be absolutely brutally truthful about it, it was an early form of communism. That's what communism is where everything is common. You live in a commune. Nobody owns any personal property. Now, since, you know, communism has been infused with these other, you know, political meanings, but the oldest and purest definition of communism, where nobody has personal property. It's all common. You live in a commune. And that's how they wanted to live. They believed that that's what the early church did, so they wanted to live that way. And so
it didn't help you to work any harder than anybody else, because you shared everything then, right? I mean,
well, peer pressure. I mean, and they're still,
it's not like that works in that kind of situation.
Well, you'd had 150, 100. So they still have them in South Dakota. So they came over on the boat. And actually, it's interesting to me that whoever was president in 1870, we should look that up. They first came three senior members of the church came a year earlier, and they went to Long Island. They met with the president of the United States, whoever that was, in 1874.
So their whole church came over then.
Well, let me tell you the story. So they came over in 1873. They came over. What an arduous journey. I mean, back in 1870, you had to go on a boat with sails, and I don't think they had steamboats then to go across the Atlantic. Anyway, and they met with the president. Who was the president in 1873? They met with the president on Long Island, and they said, because they were persecuted. Because, what's that?
It's Biden, right? He's still around then. He's like 90-something, isn't he? He was there. He's like, hey, come on from the ships. You just come on over to the ships. And oh, it's 2024. I blinked my eyes and it's 2024. I didn't know I could do an impression of it.
You did a pretty good one. 1873. I mean, who can you imagine? Grover Cleveland. They met him in Long Island.
Good guy.
And
back in the
they
days,
wanted to, because they were persecuted. The Hutterites were persecuted because they were successful farmers and they were conscientious objectors. So they didn't want to participate in any war. And people didn't like that they were successful. And so there was a lot of persecution. And they wouldn't fight back because they're conscious objectors. So they were looking for a way.
Kind of like another version of the Jews.
And so they wanted to find a place where they could have freedom to pursue their unique religious way of doing things.
And then knew about the whole Hitler thing coming a few years later.
And a lot of years later.
Yeah.
Anyway, 70 years later. Anyway, or 60 at least. So they asked Grover Cleveland, can you guarantee us freedom of religion? And he said, well, I can't personally guarantee it, but that's our country. You know, you have freedom here. And so they went back and they toured. They were here for 3 months, the three senior guys. And their diary entries is in this book you can read. And they were sick a lot, going by train back and forth. And they explored the Midwest where they could buy land cheap. And they went back and they brought 300 people with them, came over on a boat and then got on a train, and they ended up in Nebraska. And they lived there for about a year or so, and so many people got sick and so many people died.
What was the big sickness issue? Any idea?
Well, I'll have to dig up, maybe for next podcast, I'll dig up the book if I can find the book. I've got the book. It's a 100th anniversary, 1874 or 1974. It came, they published this book. And so they decided we need to move somewhere else. This is Lincoln, Nebraska is where they were. And they moved north. I wish they'd moved south because I had to grow up in the cold. Why did they have to go north? Anyway, they moved north to South Dakota. Freeman, South Dakota is where they moved to. And they settled there. And you can still, I haven't been there, but maybe next time I go to South Dakota, we should check it out. They lived in, there's no wood. It was prairie. There was no trees. So what are you going to build with? So they build these sod huts made from mud, and that's what they lived in. And they lived there for a while. And then my grandfather was about 20. And he said, it's too tight around here. I want my own land. I'm going to go north. So he goes north about, I suppose it's about a 2 hour, hour and a half by car. And he went to Carpenter, Yale, South Dakota, which is, and he bought some land, and
that was Grandpa's grandpa?
No, it was my grandpa, your great grandfather. You never met him.
Oh, this is Grandpa's dad.
Yeah. My dad's
first
dad.
one to establish in Carpenter.
Yeah. Well, a whole bunch came. A whole bunch. And there's all that community, all the farmers all have the same names. You can tell they're Hutterites. Cheddars, Hofers, Glanzers, Kleinsaucers. These are all names you can tell. All those are Hutterites. Walter, I mean, that's my family name. My artist name is Wolf, but my family name is Walter. And it doesn't really ring the bell like all these other names, but it is one of the oldest Hutterite names. It is very old, honored Hutterite name.
Did I ever show you my 23andMe? I got to show you that. I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I've never done that. I want to do that.
There's one cousin that's I'm pretty sure it's on Grandpa's side of the family that's more closely related to me, I believe, than my first cousin or second cousin. And I'm like, I have no idea who this person is. I'll have to show you after this. But that's such a fun thing to do. In fact, you should do Ancestry, because there's probably documents that will pop up that you will know nothing about that will be on Ancestry. The Ancestry one.
Well, I'm afraid to do that because, all my illustrious criminal past, they'll be able to catch me then, when that pops up.
Knew it. I think you'll be okay.
No, that's a complete joke. Complete joke. I have no criminal past. Never been arrested. Never done anything. Anyway, so speeding.
Yeah.
Did I speed a few times?
I always appreciate your speeding. I love watching those minutes tick down. Make it so much quicker.
Yeah, I am Wildman Walter's son.
Yeah, he was the speeder. Oh my gosh. Okay, here's another quick Walter story. Tim, you gotta tell this story. Tell the story of Grandpa. It might have happened every time, but just him going to drop off grain.
Oh, didn't I tell you that story in the past?
Yeah, you told it to me, but I was like, tell it on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Well,
basically, I think he does it everything time, right? But
yeah, he would back. This was before semis. He didn't have a semi, so it was the dump truck with the hoist, and
somebody at the elevator told you about it, right?
Yeah, I heard it from somebody at the elevator.
Told me about it.
Yeah, they told me about this story about my dad and his reputation. He never told me this story.
Right.
He didn't know anything about it. So, grain elevator, it's different now. But the old elevators, they were wooden. They would burn down because you could have grain fires. But now it's a different system. But back then, you'd pull in and all the grain would be above you. Anyway. And the scale was also where you dumped your grain. Now you weigh and then you go to a dump spot. I mean, these new modern facilities are much more modern. But you'd pull in and then you would stop and there'd be grate there and the grain would go into a pit below. And my dad would come screaming around the corner with a full load of grain, by the way, on a truck, fully loaded. And he comes and
did he have to call ahead and tell him that
no, if there's nobody there, you just if there's nobody in there, you can come in. If there's a line, you got to wait. But he'd come in and he'd slam on his brakes on top of the scale, which isn't good for the scale. The scale's going like this. And he'd jump before they could even get out of the weigh house. There's a window there with the scale. And they can watch you before you even had a chance. Because they're getting the weight. They got to get the weight of the loaded truck and then the weight of the unloaded truck, so they can know how many bushels you had. He would jump out of the truck and he would start raising up the hoist and open up the end gate and start dumping the grain. And then as soon as it was empty, he would slam that door shut. And most farmers, then you get a weight after it's empty. Most farmers will come in to see how many bushels they had.
They kind of do.
You know, you want to know, hey, how many bushels did I have? I thought I had 500 bushels, or I thought 550. Oh, it was only 549 or whatever. You know, and chew the fat with the guy there. Not Wild Man Walter. He would scream out of there, scream around the corner, and the truck bed is still up in the air because it takes a while for that to come down. And he's going around the corner at full speed, and he gets on the highway, and he's driving on the highway, and that voice is just starting to come down because it takes a while. He probably got halfway home before it even got all the way down. And that is not the norm. Most people will come in, chew the fat, say, how's the yields? And you ask what are the yields you're hearing from other farmers? Because everybody tells what yields are. Then lie. It's like when you go fishing and I caught a fish this big and it's this big. So all the farmers are saying, I'm making 40 bushel, but they're really making, whatever. But most farmers will go in and chew the fat. But my dad had no time for that. And the elevator guy that told me the story said his nickname in the elevator is Wild Man Walter. Because when he comes, you got to get out of the way because he might hit you because he's screaming into that elevator. He was crazy, and they also called him lucky because with that speed and always doing things so fast, there were a lot of close calls that that he could have been injured. But one time he was working. He had a saw. That you saw stuff down, metal saw, and it's like it's on a platform, and you bring it down, and the blade is turning, and he had to replace the blade. Chop saw, and you're chopping metal because he was welding and making stuff, and it was on a 55-gallon drum. It wasn't properly secured, and he had to change the blade. So you use an Allen wrench to loosen that blade. And most people would unplug it first.
Right.
Wild Man Walter ain't got time for that. Got no time for that. So he's wrenching on it to try to loosen it because the Allen wrench is tight. And because it wasn't properly secured on the 55-gallon empty drum, it started falling. So he grabbed it to stabilize it, and he grabbed it by the handle, and that's where the trigger is to turn it on. And it was plugged in, and he hit the trigger inadvertently, and that thing started up, and it flipped that Allen wrench, and it went right into his cheek, sticking out of his cheek. And he comes into the house. He pulled it out and came into the house and said, I had a bit of an accident. I had to take him to the hospital.
So that's when you were back to the farm working. So
I moved back.
Yeah. The crazy. I mean, gosh, God was always looking after him. The Angels were always protecting him.
Well, the worst
he
one,
did get some injuries there. He is lucky to be like, what was the nail? I mean, if that could have easily gone into his brain.
What you mean? The one I just described?
Right? No, there was another one that was straight up nail.
I don't know about that one. I don't remember that one. But there was one where I was in my office on a Saturday afternoon, and I had employees at this time, so I was working in the office, and I was exporting soybeans to Japan, and I would often turn off the two-way radio because I got so tired of my employees talking back and forth, and they're talking about nonsense, and I'm like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. They're just entertaining each other, as they drive into the fields and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that day I had it on, and I'm in my office, and I hear my dad with a very distressed tone, Tim, help me. And I'm like, where are you? And he describes where he is on the farm. He's behind the tree belt. And he's back there, and he had a skid steer. This is when he was buying stuff and cutting it up with a cutting torch and taking it for scrap metal just to keep him busy. Man's
right, he was retired.
He was retired. He's like in his 70s, but he had to do something to keep busy.
Oh, yeah.
And he had the skid steer that had everything raised up because he was cutting stuff off it. I think he had a panel, and he wanted to lower it a bit. No, he wanted to lower the tilt. And the motor was off, and you can do that. You just hit the button, and since there's pressure, hydraulic, you release the valve and it'll come down, or release the tilt. Well, these are foot pedals, and so you know which one is to go up and which is the tilt. But when you're reaching in, you're reversed, and your mind thinks, okay, it's the left one is the tilt, but you reach for it and you're reversed, and you're really hitting the right one.
Okay.
And he hit the one to go up and down, and he hit that thing, and the whole thing came crashing down on his head. And it went across the back of his neck, and he's trapped there. Hit it with great force. He's trapped there. And his head is like this, and it's resting on the back of his neck. And this arm is immobile because it's trapped. God was on it. God had things arranged. He had the walkie-talkie here in this shirt pocket or this pocket. And this arm was free enough that he could reach it with his head like this and said, "Come and help me." And I'm looking for him. I couldn't find him. It was a big farm, and I found him, and there he is. And I go in and I jump in and I turn it on, and I'm like, okay, which one is? I don't want to make it worse. I want to make sure I push the right one, because I don't normally operate that, because that was his machine. And I raised it up, and he's like all dazed, And I remember taking him into the emergency room, and the emergency room people must have told him 20 times, "You are the luckiest man I have ever worked. You're lucky you're alive. You're lucky you're not paralyzed." It went across the back of his head. If you ever skid steers, that's a big thing. You can raise thousands of pounds, and it's heavy duty steel. And it came crashing down on the back of his head. He had a strong head, strong skull, and it could have paralyzed him. Could have killed him. If he'd been there for a long time, he would have died, most likely, because he was trapped there. He couldn't move. And it was in the morning, and my mom wouldn't have known that he was gone. Maybe by noon she would have realized he would come in. But anyway, he never had any repercussions from that. So Lucky is another one of his nicknames, and he deserves the Lucky. So anyway, that's kind of a morbid story. But morbid. He didn't.
No,
what's that?
The great part is
that, back then farmers, farming was dangerous. I remember when I was a kid in church, there'd always be a farmer missing some digits or some missing an entire arm. And usually it was a corn picker accident, because you're picking corn and the corn gets caught, and you reach to try to dislodge it, and your arm gets caught in there. And now that wouldn't happen because they've got safeguards, and but back then it was the Wild West, so to speak, and a lot of farmers lost a finger or two fingers, or if they're lucky, that's all they lost. But there was a lot of accidents, farming accidents like that. People falling.
Grandpa had a half brother. You never met? I think it was before he was born, right?
Well, that was way back in the 20s. My grandfather's first wife. He was 50. My grandfather was 50 when my dad was born, so it was his second wife.
Wow.
Which was old back then, 1929.
He lived to be 99.
He lived to be 99. Yeah. But his son was this is one of those like a Model T truck, really old, really primitive type of a truck, and his name was Cornelius. They called him Corny. Cornelius was his name. And he was running alongside trying to
something he always did too, right?
He always did. He'd run alongside and get on, because these trucks didn't move that fast. And then he'd jump on the land, on the, what do you call it, the side platform that you could stand on. And he slipped and fell underneath it.
Right underneath the tire.
Right underneath the tire. And he didn't die for 2 or 3 days. And my aunt told me that he was laying in bed, didn't even take him to the hospital, I guess. She wasn't alive, but she heard the story.
Yeah.
And he said, "Go, there's a rope in the barn. Go get it and tie it around my waist, because I feel like my waist is going to explode." Everything inside was messed up. It took him about 3 days to die. And horrible, very tragic accident. A lot of our governor, or the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem, is the governor of South Dakota. Her father died in a grain bin accident.
Yeah, those are very dangerous.
Yeah. So, the grain bridges up, and it gets crusty, and you go in there, and if you don't realize it's bridged up, and you stand on it, and the weight, and all of a sudden it'll cut loose, and you fall down. And if nobody knows you're in there, or you don't have any safety gear, like a rope or something, you'll suffocate. And that's what happened to him.
Goodness.
She was young. Her and her sisters and brothers, they lost their dad. I think he was like 50. I don't know how old he was, roughly 50, maybe in that ballpark, 40, late 40s, early 50s. So that shaped that family. So these things happen on the farm. Farming can be quite dangerous. I mean, other occupations. I mean, mining is probably more dangerous, I suppose. But dangerous occupation.
Yeah, and Grandpa loved every bit of it.
Oh yeah, he just loved it. Yeah.
He was good at it too. He worked hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where his smile was at all times.
And he could survive on 4 hours of sleep. At his funeral, I had two different neighbors come up to me because I knew they told me this already, but they came up to me and they said, we wake up, and these were not slouches of workers. They probably got up at 6, and they would wake up and it'd still be dark, and they'd look out the window because they were like they could see across the plains, and my dad's lights of the field would already be out in the field. And then when they'd go to bed, usually the typical routine was you'd work till dark maybe, and then you come in. This is during the summer. You'd come in and you'd eat, eating late, and then turn on the news and watch the news at 10 o'clock and 10:30 or so, and then go to bed. And they told me that they would look out the window before they went to bed at 10:30, and my dad's lights were still out there. So
yeah, I feel like during the summer, I feel like we never ate any earlier than 9.
No, because he'd come in from the field, and he could survive on 4 hours of sleep. And there was a time that my mother thought he was having an affair because he wouldn't come home till like 1 a.m. The only affair he had was his, the farm. So he just loved working. He worked so hard. So
yeah, his passion. It was his passion. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm not living up to his work ethic, but I mean, I know how to work, but I can't work that hard. I can't work. I can't survive on 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I think if Grandma would have never thought, oh, he's cheating, if she would have been there after she passed away, if she would have saw what he was like after that.
Yeah. Well, her mind was, I mean, to be fair, this was in the last few years. Her mind was already, her mind was already.
I thought that would be something maybe she thought at the beginning.
I don't think
it
so.
Wasn't used to.
No, it was just at the very end when she, wasn't thinking clearly the last few years of her life, and it was sad, and
and Grandpa wasn't the same after she
no, he didn't want to be around any longer.
Yeah,
so
it was a little bit of a harder work to get him to chuckle up, but it was still doable. We still have some good times there.
One of my favorite minutes, we went golfing. We went bowling. Remember?
I know you were shocked that we got him to bowl.
I can't believe it. I mean, he was like just a few years before he died, and we went to a family bowling, and he went along with us.
The only spot there in Huron, little bowling alley,
and
he bowled.
And he did pretty well, actually.
He did all right. And well, you were.
I think he beat me. I think he beat me.
You were so worried about it that you wanted him to have the bumpers. Like no, he don't want the bumpers.
He didn't need them. I think he was better than me. And that's not saying much. If I break 100, I'm doing well.
Same here.
Your brother's a good bowler.
He's had a couple really good games. Yeah. He has a high score.
What's his high score?
269.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Which I think only happened. I mean, that's only happened once. But yeah, he usually. But me and him are usually pretty close.
I broke 130 once.
I think.
So if I did that twice, I'd have almost as good as his one score.
Yeah, I feel like 130 is probably my average. We got to go bowling here sometime soon.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I haven't done it in a while. Yeah. Well, we got a good story there for you guys. It's always there's plenty more of those stories. I think didn't we tell the story of the of us pretending that box weighed a lot? I think we told that.
See, I don't remember the story like you do.
Oh, really?
But I think you may have told it already.
Yeah, I think so. It was empty. The box was empty.
Yeah, Christmas was such a big deal for lots of gifts and lots of just big meals and just big celebrations that lasted a week or more, and just really important part.
You might have forgot that story just because, I mean, you didn't mean to do it, but it's hilarious that you were the one that
you
did
said
it.
we pretended that the box was heavy and it really wasn't. But I leaned against it,
and
my dad caught that. But there's But has your mom ever told the story when she was 16 and she the car? Yeah, she wanted a car. She thought she should get a car. She wanted a car. She had her driver's license. She wanted a car. She turned 16 in August. It was her birthday, and I think she turned. And Dad went and got, I'm going to say 30 boxes.
Right, box inside a box kind of thing.
And every box got wrapped. It was huge. It was started big, and then slowly down. And she's unwrapping all these, and he's laughing like a hyena the entire time as she's opening these boxes. And she finally gets down to a little like a shoebox and opens it up, and there's a toy car in there.
And she
which is kind of mean.
It is. I'm about to say, I would hope that there was a key inside the car or something. Nope.
No.
You get toy car.
I got you what you wanted. You got a car. It's kind of mean, I guess. But
yeah. What your song came out Friday, right?
Yes. Thank you for asking, sir. Yes. Yeah, so Chris Stapleton wrote a song with 3 other writers. Dave Cobb, who's his producer. He works with a lot. Dave Cobb is an amazing producer and also songwriter.
And I did the Staples jokes last time, so no Staples jokes this time.
And then a couple other writers that I don't remember their names, but they wrote a song called "Cold" that came out 3 years ago, maybe roughly, and it won a Grammy. Chris Stapleton song, and
a Grammy.
Yeah, and I covered that song, "Cold," and I released it last Friday. So
so
check it out. So, yeah. You know, it's a little bit different feel than Chris's, but.
And you're working on your song for this? No, every 2 weeks, right?
Every 2 weeks.
So you already know the song you're doing for next Friday?
Stop Start Girl. Well, yeah, you have to upload it like a month and a half in advance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Stop Start Girl is up next.
So that's a Spotify thing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, you could potentially do it a week, but you might not get on every channel. I mean, there's many channels. I use DistroKid, and it uploads to many channels. And some of them take a long time. Like, and I only care about the big 4, you know, like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Pandora would be 5th one. Those are the main ones, but there's probably another 50. And I'll get an email, you know, like 2 weeks after my song goes live. Your song is live now on platform I never heard of. So there's a lot of platforms out there, but the big ones, you know,
so you're
Spotify's
doing 30 distribution thing?
The whole thing, yeah, everything, the whole thing, yeah. 33% is Spotify. I think Apple is around 18 or so. Amazon is about 18 in that ballpark. YouTube Music.
Yeah, Apple.
Those
there's
are the
not
big
even
ones.
a free version of Apple, right? So that
no.
That
and Apple pays twice as much as Spotify. So I'm a big Apple Music fan. So anyhow, yeah. So it's Stop Start Girl Tim Worth Band coming out. So
Friday after next.
Not
this Friday, but
and
next.
then Stephanie.
Mm-hmm. The tune of that gets stuck in my head so easily. It's good.
I'm hoping it does for everyone. And then after that, I have nothing scheduled, but I have 2 songs in the can that I need to get uploaded. Need to develop a thumbnail artwork for it. Survive by Tim Worth Band again, and then Curse of the Silent Muse. It's a tongue.
Curse of the Silent Muse.
That's not how it goes, but you know that's pretty good.
How it goes, but that's pretty good. Seth, you're a great guy.
You are a great guy. Yes.
You're a great guy, Seth. Thank you.
I don't care what anyone says about you.
I don't care what it's posted on all those sites. Seth, you're a great guy.
Yeah. So we have merch now. We have T-shirts, and I ordered our T-shirts, and they should be here by next time. and we need to make that. I mean, I need to figure out how to put that on the screen. You know, if we're really sophisticated, we could actually put right now. You'd be looking at the artwork, but maybe next week we'll figure out how to do that. I'm so excited. We went live today on Instagram, and
Exciting.
it's the first time.
Exciting.
Instagram's a
Are
little
you
complicated.
excited?
I am so excited.
I'm
It's
excited.
the first time
Hope
to go
everybody
live on
really
Instagram,
watches
and you got to use a key. There's extra steps. You just don't use your restream and go live. You have to use a key, which is a code, and then you have to go live on your computer. That's why I have my computer here. And but I just checked it while you were riffing and thought I wasn't paying attention. And we're live on Instagram. Tim Wolf.
Would you just look at it?
We should go live next week also on No Sugar No Cream. Instagram. Yeah. I don't know if there's any minimum size. Like, for example, we're going live on my TikTok, the Tim Wolf, because you need to have 1,000 followers to go live on TikTok. I don't know, and you need to also have 200 followers to go live on Facebook. So some of these platforms have different limitations before you can go live.
Well, it seems like we're doing the best there on Tim Wolf Facebook.
Yeah.
So keep on.
Thank you so much.
watching.
Thank you
We
so much.
appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Please like
We
and
appreciate you.
subscribe.
Thank you.
We do have an Instagram. I had an issue. I got to figure out how to get on there so I can start posting on there. And
Yeah, we're going for it. We are not. We're not backing down. We are going for it.
to the
Pedal
metal.
to the metal. Pedal to the metal.
Pedal
No doubt
to
about
the
it.
metal.
No doubt about it.
Singing with Seth at the end of the podcast. No sugar, no cream. Guys, we love you very much. Thank you for watching, listening, subscribing, and we will see you next time.
Yes.
Goodbye. This is the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.